routers are some of the most popular woodworking tools in our small shops. In fact, I know a lot of people, Norm Abrams included, that advocate having lots of routers, put different bit on, make them easy access and stuff like that. But even though they're very flexible, can do a lot of stuff, they still have to follow the guidelines of grain direction. And that's what we're going to be talking about today in this little woodworking tips and tricks. Now, most handheld routers are going to spin in a clockwise orientation unless you invert them and put them in a router table in which they will spin in a counterclockwise orientation. And when you're cutting with a router, you basically have two different kinds of cut. A conventional cut, where you're always feeding into the blade. That is the absolute safest cut you can do. Then they have something what they call a climb cut, where you actually go with the rotation, and that can be very dangerous because if you're going with the rotation, each one of these blades has a chance to nick into the wood and then just kind of feed it, and it'll just lurch it forward. It'll run, dragging your hand into the tooth and messing up your work. So that can be very dangerous. So they pretty much tell everyone only use a conventional cut feeding into the direction of the blade when you're doing handheld work. But every single CNCer or machinist will tell you the more dangerous climb cut will generally give you a better cut because the blade is feeding into open airspace, so you're shaving it more instead of just kind of chipping it out. When you're doing a conventional cut, the blade's going into solid wood. When you're doing a climb cut, the blade is cutting out into air. But the problem is, we're dealing with wood. We're not dealing with MDF or anything like that. And wood has grain. So we have to take in consideration grain direction. Now, if I'm making a short pass right here the conventional way, it was a very easy and smooth cut because if you notice, the grain is feeding off. So I'm actually planing with the grain. But what happens when I turn this corner right here? All of a sudden, not only am I going into end grain, but I'm now going uphill into end grain. So these fibers on the edge are unsupported, so they're very likely to chip out and you'll get a rough cut. Now a sharp blade and a slow pass so that you're not going to burn it, don't go too slow, and it'll take slighter cuts, but you can actually tell it is a tad bit rougher here than it is going with the grain, and you can definitely feel the difference. But what happens when I come over to this spot? Not only am I going into end grain, not only are those fibers being pulled out, but now I'm coming to an edge, a corner, where this fiber is totally unsupported. It is very likely that I will get a crack that runs down in here, and it might go deeper than the bevel I'm cutting, and it'll show up on the end work. Well, here's one situation where I'm going to say that doing the more dangerous method might be the better way if you're looking for the quality results. So if I'm doing a climb cut in this direction, notice even if the tooth grabs, all of a sudden it grabs, now it's grabbing air. So it's less likely to pull everything in. So making a short climb cut on just that corner and then finishing it off will reduce the chance that I'll get any kind of spelching on this corner. At which point now I can just make my traditional cut the rest of the way. The same situation happens in corners like this right here. In this direction, if I'm routing it up here, oh, that is very likely to snag off. So if I just make a climb cut, the more dangerous cut from here over into air, then I can come back in this way, much less likely that that will break off. Not perfect, but it gets you better results than not doing it at all. Community Access TV is not dead. And that's what we're going to be discussing in today's bonus. But before we do that one, if you like this video, if you got something out of it, please do me a favor. Like, favorite, subscribe, do all those social medias. Visit my website, which I'm developing a whole new one that'll be out shortly, which I'll be able to update a lot more easily for our blog, the articles, links, that kind of stuff, plans. And I also have an online store where I sell my swag, t-shirts, hats, and stuff, and some shop-made tools and my own woodwork. Hence, I'm making a bunch of saw handles right now, which will be going out pretty quickly. Now, BevCam is the YouTube channel of Beverly, Massachusetts' Community Access TV channel. And they have a whole bunch of different shows. But I want to draw your attention to one of their playlists that's on woodworking. And the gentleman is going through and doing a very good job of presenting materials on the basics of hand tool woodworking in a wonderful little shop. I really do suggest you check it out. I'll put a link down below to them. BevCam for Beverly, Massachusetts' Community Access TV channel.